And welcome into Gator Bytes on the 1010XL.com podcast network, also being simulcast on the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page. Today's Gator podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, their Northeast Florida's leading orthopedic center, providing an unparalleled level of care across numerous locations in both Jacksonville and St. Augustine. That includes Riverside, Northside, the South Side, the beaches, Fleming Island, and St. John's. He's Denny Thompson. I'm the hacker, Ryan Green, along with Southeast Ortho, Denny, the good folks at George Moore Chevrolet.
Yeah. Are you buying a car right now, or what was with the spaz out about you got to have a pen right before we went on?
I think
Did you see that, Graham?
I don't know if I would call it a spaz out necessarily.
Dude, you were digging in your pockets like...
I have to have a pen. It's just, you ever seen the movie As Good As It Gets?
Yes.
With Jack Nicholson?
Yes.
He checks the door 3 times and the light switches and stuff.
OCD. Yeah.
I think I have a little bit of OCD, and I just have to have a pen. It's weird. I don't know. You don't have any quirks like that?
I'm sure I do, but what is the pen for?
I don't know. Maybe it's a safety mechanism. I don't know. I just have to hold something, I guess.
Okay, anyway, George Moore, yeah, bring your pen to George Moore.
When I'm pointing,
be ready to sign on that lease. Just take that pen. Can we give away your pen if they buy a George Moore car?
Well, here's the thing, and I love talking about George Moore.
A free, authentically hacker-used pen.
Right, we should do that each week.
Comes with a George Moore Chevy.
If we're making a solid point about Southeast Orthopedic Specialist or George Moore, I could do this with my hand, right?
Yeah.
But I think this means a little something else with the pen. That's just the way I get down.
I think you're insane.
Well, possibly. I'm not disputing that. I am not disputing that at all. But thank you.
If y'all would have seen, count me in, Graham says, and all of a sudden, hacker's like, where's my pen?
Gotta have my pen, man.
It's like, are we writing something?
There's no question. On the same piece of paper I've had for 5 years. Again, OCD a little bit.
It's great.
All right, so George Moore, Southeast Ortho, bringing Gator Bytes. Recruiting class in the rearview mirror. Under Armour All-American game in the rearview mirror. Transfer portal heating up for the Gators a little bit. Grayson Howard, young man from Jacksonville, terrific football player at Jackson High School, was a South Carolina commit. I know Florida fans were upset. Last year they did not get Grayson Howard. They end up getting him earlier this week in the transfer portal. So slowly but surely, Denny, Billy Napier, I believe 6 guys out of the portal now, beginning to get a little bit of traction there.
Well, yeah, they're going to field a football team.
Grayson Howard's a good player.
No, I know that, but my point is, everybody's going to field a football team. There's only so many spots. So at this point, if you're getting people in the portal, they're probably pretty good players. There's 20-something hundred guys in the portal right now. You got a lot to choose from, right? So if you're taking a guy, especially early, and this is still, fairly early, I guess we're getting into the late stage, then he's a really good football player. And you want to jump on them. What's going to happen in the next week is classes start, a week from probably Monday or something like that, or maybe even next week. I don't know. So sometime within that dead end date of when you can add a class, that person has to be enrolled. There's still a student part to student athlete. And so decisions have to be made. And there's, probably 80% of the guys in the portal that are wanted haven't made a decision.
You look at Florida's portal right now, 6 guys have verbally committed. I guess most of these guys have actually signed. Edge rusher, linebacker, wide receiver, corner, D lineman, offensive tackle. They're hitting positions certainly that they need. And Florida got some interesting news that Jason Marshall has decided to come back as a corner. He'll clearly be one of the leaders on that defense. I'm a little surprised Jason Marshall came back. Leads me to wonder if he got bad news from the NFL with the paperwork that they sent back to him.
Yeah, I don't know. You define bad news, too, because that's different for everybody.
Well, if you think you're round 3, round 4, and they send back round 6, round 7.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I don't know where he thought and what was going to end up. But I was thinking about this on the way in here today. There's really nothing that's going to happen between now and August from signing somebody in the portal or whatever it looks like that's going to change any of our tunes about next season. It wouldn't matter. There's nobody in the portal right now that Florida could sign that you go, oh my gosh, they're going to win 9 games, right?
No.
So there's not anything on the roster that they can do that's going to change it. What they have to do is the best they can with that, but then they just got to figure this thing out. They just got to figure out, I don't mean to sound so vague with that, but they got to figure out what is the issue here, because it's not like, yes, they got blown out, but they largely cost themselves at least 3 games. Utah, Missouri, Arkansas. You can make the argument Florida State as well. Like, they beat themselves in those games. So you've got to spend this offseason figuring out, okay, what do we have to do differently with who we have to win those 3 or 4 games? Because that's where your wins are going to come from. It's not going to come from talent.
No, but to your point about they couldn't bring anybody in the portal, I agree with that to an extent. But if we found out later today that Evan Stewart's coming to Florida, the big-time wide receiver from A&M that's in the portal, or that running back Junkins from Ole Miss is coming to Florida, that's a perception change very quickly.
You all of a sudden now you think that one of those guys coming in when we're doing this show in July, and you go on your rant about how you can't understand how Florida fans think they're going to win any games. You're telling me, because it's going to happen. It's every year you do that.
Yeah.
Right? So you're telling me that if they sign one of those 2, that would keep you from that rant?
I'm telling you, if they sign one of those 2, we would be talking about them in July. I'm not sure we're talking about any of the guys they've signed.
Agreed. I just don't know that it means any more wins or losses. What means wins and losses is getting what you've got in there right now organized and performing. Like performing to the highest level that you can get them to, where we don't run a field goal kicker in.
Yeah.
Where we don't have 2 number 3s, where we don't do just the stupid stuff, that's where you lost games. I don't know that you lost games on just pure talent. You're not going to beat Georgia, Alabama, but you could beat Arkansas, you could beat Utah, you could beat Missouri with the talent that you had if you didn't just kind of fumble the bag.
By against a terrible South Carolina team.
Right. So it's like that's the part for me that if you just handle your business there and you become kind of a well-oiled machine with that and you figure out where you failed, then maybe that's how you get to 7 or 8 wins. But I don't think there's anybody in the portal that's going to get you there.
You and I haven't talked since Trevor Etienne went to Georgia. And to me, and I'm trying to think, the transfer portal's been around, 5 years, basically?
Something like that, yeah.
In the what we know of it now. You could transfer back in the day, but it's really fired up here in the last 5 years. I'm thinking in the entire country, like the entire country, not just the Southeastern Conference. Is there a bigger move that a fan base feels is, fan base is not happy with Trevor Etienne, than leaving Florida and going to Georgia? Now, people will say, well, Brenton Cox left Georgia and went to Florida, and so did Jalen Kimber. Yes, that's true. But Jalen Kimber and Brenton Cox are not Trevor Etienne. You could argue Trevor Etienne was maybe the best offensive player the Gators had last year, certainly in the conversation. And for him to leave and get in the portal and to go, of all places, to the arch rival Georgia Bulldogs, that stung Florida fans a little bit.
How many touches did he have last year?
Not as many as he should have.
Right.
By a large margin.
I mean, I don't know, man. I think if you put yourself in a situation, I'm not defending this. I would say this if this happened with anybody. If you put yourself in a situation of like a parent there, you got 1 more year. And as a running back, you need to be gone after 3 now, because those hits do cost you money. You got 1 more year. Like, what is the best situation for your kid in that 1 more year? And if you're Florida, that has to be the answer. And I don't know. I haven't talked to him about it, but I just think maybe Florida wasn't the best fit for this 1 more year that he had.
By the way, Trevor Etienne last year, 131 carries, 753 yards, and 8 touchdowns.
And 21 catches.
Yeah, and the one thing about Trevor Etienne...
So basically 150 touches.
Yeah. And the one thing about Trevor Etienne, too, we haven't heard a peep from Montrell Johnson, which leads you to believe he's coming back.
I assumed he was coming back.
Well, right. I mean, I assume now. I didn't know that 3 weeks ago, but I assume now he's coming back, so it would have been the same exact situation, sharing carries in the backfield.
Yeah, and maybe it'll be the same in Georgia. I have no idea. If it wasn't Georgia, is what you're saying. Like, if he would have gone...
He could have gone anywhere else.
Just pick
other than Florida State.
Right, pick it. Southern Cal.
Like Chris
something
McClellan
like that.
went to Missouri. Florida's going to play Chris McClellan. Missouri is not Georgia.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know, man. That is tough. That is a tough L to take as a fan base. But at the same time, I think, if you're going to enter the portal, then you want to end up in the situation you feel the best about. Right, regardless of what it is. I mean, I think that's the only way to enter it. But I definitely get that would sting. And it definitely is a changing of college football, along with, what the SEC is going to be next year, y'all, is completely different than what we're used to it being. Like, everything is changing in this game right now.
Today's Gator Bytes podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialist. For the highest quality care, you can rely on Southeast Orthopedic Specialist for any orthopedic injury or concern. You can log on to their website by going to se-ortho.com, and you can listen for Southeast Orthopedic Specialist, the good Dr. Kevin Murphy, on Thursday mornings in the 7 o'clock hour with Jeff and Dan right here on 1010XL for his weekly analysis of injuries in sports. Also, George Moore Chevrolet. What do the folks over there
that
think
don't count.
about?
You got to put that in your hand.
About George Moore, absolutely. It's a new thing now.
He had the pin on the ground or on the table.
George Moore Chevrolet, I'm sure they're very interested in what's going on with the University of Florida. A lot of Gator fans over there.
Yeah, Justin's a huge Gator fan, a huge Jag fan. So, yeah, big weekend for the folks at Georgia. If you go in there, like, all they do is talk football.
Yeah.
I'll go in there an hour later. I'm talking Notre Dame football with Augie in there. Like, it's just nonstop. Good people. Go see them.
Yeah, go see George Moore Chevrolet. All right. I love college football. You love college football. Graham loves college football. We all love college football. Last weekend in Miami, Florida, at the Orange Bowl, that was not college football. 30 Florida State guys sat out of that game, either NFL declarations, opt-outs, couple injuries, right, with Jordan Travis. Kirby Smart addressed it after the game that college football needs to figure out what they want these bowl games to be. Because that was the Orange Bowl, right? That wasn't Bob's Front Porch Bowl. The Orange Bowl was turned into nothing more than a glorified scrimmage between a varsity and what proved to be a junior varsity because they didn't have 30 of their guys. 63-3, it could have been worse. Georgia didn't try in the fourth quarter. I mean, to me, that was a bad, bad day for college football. And I don't know what to do about it when it comes to these bowl games.
Yeah, I don't know if there is anything you can do about it. I mean, I think the expanded playoff is going to help because obviously the games that we all care. Are y'all going to care about watching a bowl game outside of the top 12? Like, I mean, the only reason why we cared about that one was it was Georgia and Florida State.
Well, that's the thing. I'll watch.
So I think we've taken care of it largely. But the last thing I need to hear, and this isn't a slight against Kirby at all. I mean, it's against everybody. Is the last thing I need to hear coaches talking about this. Because I can't tell you how many coaches have taken another job and not coached in their bowl game over the years. It happens over and over and over. So y'all just miss me with this. Like, I can't believe the state of college football. Y'all started this.
Right, but Kirby wasn't talking about his team.
I know. I don't
Kirby
care.
Won the game by 60.
The sport in general. I listen, again, this isn't about Kirby. We hear it with Dabo. We hear it with everybody, man. Like, every single one of you guys worked your way up at the ladder, and I bet if we go back and looked, every single one of you guys at some point probably left a team before a bowl game.
You abandoned a bowl game at some point.
It's obviously not that freaking important.
But I don't – again, I'm just interpreting what Kirby was saying, and this is what I'm saying. I don't think he necessarily cares about the transfer portal and players getting NIL. It's the timing of it. The timing of it is terrible.
It's not Kirby. It's
right. Any coach, whatever.
It's what college football is. You can't change like the timing of this stuff. They keep trying to back it up and put it back on the players, and it's not the players. It's not. It's not because now we're talking about you've got an early signing day in December now. You now have backed up when they can enter into the portal. So now, and by the way, there's 2 dead weeks in December as well. So now a kid can't even enter the portal until December. Now he's got to go take how many ever visits to make a decision before school starts on January 10th. And you want him to play in a bowl game? Like, y'all keep changing the rules.
Yes.
So I don't like. I'm so tired of this. It's you are forcing the hand of these kids.
Right. You're basically saying exactly what I'm saying. There's too much going on in December. They need to do something with the calendar.
But they are the grown-ups need to do something
well, I'm
with
not
the
talking
calendar.
about the head coach. Yeah, right. I'm talking about the college football, NCAA, whatever you want to call it.
Here's what they need to do. They need to stop acting like this is anything other than semi-pro. That's what they need to start doing. They got to stop with this. Like, okay, yes, if we want this calendar, I understand that your school has a date that everybody has to be enrolled by. Do we have to abide by that? Are we now academics that important now? Because if not, cool. Bump it all back and make it to where it's January 1st to middle of February. But you can't do that because the whole base is around academics.
Florida played their last regular season game 6 weeks ago, 41 days ago, against Florida State. In the last 41 days, 20 guys have entered the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my question to you is, did they just have this revelation in the last 41 days that I'm entering the portal?
No.
Of course not. In the last month of the year, I'm willing to bet those 20 guys knew they were out of there. And they were going to leave as soon as they could, which was the first week in December.
I would argue that.
I mean,
there's a thing called exit meetings that happen right after your season. And a lot of those guys went in that office, and those coaches told them they're leaving.
Well, they didn't tell Chris McClellan that.
Again, we're talking about one guy, but we're talking like we're saying about the bigger overall problem. Again, I have no problem with the current system. I really don't. Like the bowl games, I don't watch them anyway. Like I watch the playoffs. I just don't want to hear coaches gripe about it because I know what's going on the other side. You had a game, you played your rival, you still got a bowl game, you brought a kid in and told him, hey, man, it ain't going to work out for you here. And so now the kid hits the portal and the whole fan base is cussing the kid. It ain't even the kid wanted to stay.
Right. No, I don't blame the kid. I blame the timing of it all. Bill Bender of the Sporting News, I think I told you this. I love this analogy that he used. The transfer portal being open in December would be the equivalent of NFL free agency starting during the playoffs. You have college football free agency while your season is still going on.
I understand that, but you can't do anything about it. Unless you take the academics out, you can do nothing about this. The only time that there's no school is in December.
Yeah.
That's it. They have classes. They're supposed to be students. They have to finish classes in early December. They have to be back there in early January. That's the part that it feels like every single media person misses.
Well,
they have to do this.
So, and again, it wasn't just Florida State. I mean, like a lot of some of the lesser bowls, the group of fives got decimated by the portal. And I guess it just the only thing that determines
the group of fives are thriving right now.
Right. But I mean, like Ohio University, I think is the example. They had like 24 guys miss their bowl game. They're
recruiting that. Now that's part of the pitch. Come here, ball out for 2 years, and then go.
Yeah.
Like that's the way that recruiting is happening now. We've got a minor league system for most guys. If you're not a 4 or 5 star, you're going to go Division II, FCS, or a group of 5. And if you perform well, then you're going to go up.
Now, let me ask you this. Early signing period. Mm-hmm. That's been jammed into December as well with the transfer portal. Should they do something about that?
What are you going to do?
Well, you didn't have it for 100 years, and you seem
to
be
back to
okay.
February?
Yeah.
I mean, you can do that. It doesn't do anything, though, because 80% of these guys are enrolling in January.
Yeah, to get there during the spring.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and August isn't the answer. August is not the answer.
What about was it Danny Cannell who was like week 0 should be the bowl? Like there was some weird thing going on. Did you see that?
Danny Cannell just sits up and dreams stuff up that he's going to.
Well, he was upset that his alma mater got beat by 60, and I don't blame him.
That's his thing.
But his idea was like play like equivalent of like a bowl game, a neutral site game against a big other team.
Why do we care?
Week 0.
Why we're doing that? That's basically what we're doing. We're basically have been doing that the last 10 years, where it's a neutral site, big game, week 0, right? That's what we've been doing.
But it's not called the Orange Bowl.
Who cares? Who cares?
Why does the Orange Bowl need to be this epic game?
It is going to be again. It's going to be part of the 12-team playoff.
Right, but
like I just don't understand. Like the teams outside of that, you want to fix it, then stop inviting the number 6 SEC team and go invite the number 1 James Madison.
But there was a time, though.
They'll have everybody play.
There was a time, and this time has come and gone. The Holiday Bowl, the Liberty Bowl. I mean, the Gator Bowl was awesome this year. I might even lump them into this. Gator Bowl might have been the best bowl game outside the playoff. There was a time when those games were a big deal, when they meant something, and that time has come and gone. I think if you move those up to like a week 0 format and have a neutral site game in San Diego between 2 teams, and you call it the Holiday Bowl to kick off the year, it would mean a lot more then than it does right now. I guess it was an interesting thought, I guess.
I guess I don't care enough about the bowl games. I just, here's what I know, is if you are going, let's just say you're going to the draft for a second, because that's the majority of the people that hold out of the bowl games, right? And I hear everybody talking about where it used to be you only had to be a first rounder, and that's the only people. Listen.
Well, guys that enter the portal aren't playing either.
Right, but stay with me here on the bowl games with the draft. These guys, man, they start their senior year or whatever that last year is way ahead because they go do Manning camps and they train and they do all that kind of stuff. And then they play a season. And then right the day after, we have already started draft prep, y'all. The day after their game, they're starting draft prep. And then they train harder than they've ever trained for 3 months, then get drafted, then end up in rookie minicamp, then end up in training camp, then play a full NFL season. So they go 16 months, basically.
Without stopping.
Without stopping. So a meaningless bowl game, which anything outside of the playoff we have made meaningless.
Agreed.
We being everybody,
yes.
Coaches included. a meaningless bowl game does not present opportunity anymore for these guys.
Right, and that's why if you have it week 0, it would no longer be meaningless.
I don't understand how you do that. How are you having a game based off the previous year's
Well, I don't know. You would no.
results?
You would no. There's a couple of ideas that have been floated around. The way I interpreted
it, putting the kickoff classics in bowl games.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, whatever makes people happy. I don't care. I would be fine with the 12 people that make it, and nobody else plays.
I think Denny's your point from a couple minutes ago, which I have always agreed with this, and I think you've always kind of been on this, and I could not agree with this more, is coaches are obsessed with sitting on their high horse and preaching all this stuff about how college football is so broken and players don't have adversity and all this crap. Coaches cause not all of it, but a lot of this. Why is the portal the way it is?
Okay, coaches didn't cause it, but coaches participated. And what caused it was money. What caused it was TV contracts. Like, that's what caused the whole thing. Because that just gave such an influx of money to the point that all of a sudden you go to these facilities and they're putting up these meccas and they're printing money, right? So that was the root cause of it, but the coaches were the first ones to truly benefit from that, right? They set a standard. The money got ridiculous, and now the players are following that standard. It is that simple.
And granted, the Florida State situation will never happen again under a 12-team playoff because I believe, and Mike Norvell even alluded to this in his postgame. By the way, his speech in the locker room after a 60-point loss was pretty incredible. I don't know if you saw it or not.
Yeah.
It was pretty incredible. But Norvell even alluded to this. It was his opinion that if Florida State had lost the ACC championship game and were 12-1 and went to some other bowl game outside the Orange, his opinion is more his guys would have played. Some of them left because they were angry, 13-0, and whether you call it a boycott, he didn't use that word, but that was kind of what he was alluding to.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Florida State situation is
a one-off.
It's an outlier for sure, but at the end of the day, I mean, as Florida State fans, you guys know what happened. Georgia knows what happened. Like, there's some Florida fans trolling, some Miami fans trolling, but their teams stink.
Oh, yeah. Florida fans have no room to talk.
It is what it is. Like, a week from now, this won't even become a thing. I mean, Oklahoma smoked Florida, and we all talked about that for about 2 weeks.
Oregon
and then it was kind of what
Florida.
happened, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of what college football is. And I think, listen, I think that college football is in a good place right now. I think it has to settle down, and we have to find kind of a rhythm with all this. And I agree that the calendar can be tweaked, especially during the summer a little bit. But it is in a very healthy place, and I can tell you that the guys playing college football are better than they've ever been. We've largely taken the education out unless you want the education. And then if you want the education, you can pursue that as much as you want to pursue. But make no bones about it, these guys are recruited to play football, and that is what they are doing now. So everything that the 90,000 people are in there screaming and yelling for is being done year-round, and the product is just going to get better and better and better and better.
Today's Gator Bytes podcast brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. They're Northeast Florida's leading orthopedic center, providing an unparalleled level of care across numerous locations in both Jacksonville and St. Augustine. You can check them out in Riverside, Northside, the South Side, the beaches, Fleming Island, and St. John's. And then, of course, the Penn, George Moore Chevrolet.
George Moore. You know you need that oil change. Like, put it off, and now you need it. Go to they got this service department, I'm telling you, the cleanest thing I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. It is cleaner than my kitchen floor.
Wow.
Yeah, and Angie's a clean freak. It's unreal. Y'all should just go back there and tell them Denny said that you could walk through the service bay.
It's the first of the year. You want to get your car maintenance taken care of, yeah?
You got to do that.
Head to George Moore. All right, quickly, we got to go rapid fire. I know what a big Gator basketball fan you are, so I'm not going to ask you to break down the Kentucky game tomorrow, although it is Florida and Kentucky tomorrow. But we talk about the transfer portal in college football. To me, the transfer portal, I won't say has obliterated college basketball, but there was a time when Kentucky came to Gainesville where you could name 3, 4, even 5 of their guys. You were fired up. Anybody listening, name me 2 Kentucky basketball players right now.
Oh, I know. I think basketball's been affected more than any sport.
And Florida, look, if you haven't watched a lot of the Gator non-conference, they're good. You better have a roster in front of you tomorrow, because outside of Will Richard and outside of Riley Kugel, you're not going to know who any of these guys are. They're all transfers.
Respect on Tyrese Samuel.
Well, no, but he's a transfer.
Yeah,
they're all Tyrese Samuel's a great player. No, what I'm saying is Richard and Kugel were here last year. All these other guys are all new guys from the portal or true freshmen.
Can I give you one basketball breakdown thing, Hack?
Sure.
Just real quick. If Tyrese Samuel can just figure out free throws at least a little bit, he's going to be unstoppable.
He's Donnell Harvey.
He's so athletic, and no one has an answer for him. But
do you remember Donnell Harvey?
Yes.
Tyrese Samuel to me is kind of like Donnell Harvey.
You know what's funny is like listening to this, I think what most people are with football, I am with basketball because I work in football. But I don't watch basketball that much anymore, largely because of the portal.
You don't know any of the guys.
I have no idea. Like, I grew up in Arkansas, so I was a big Razorbacks fan. It's like you knew you had those guys for 3 or 4 years,
right.
And it was the funnest thing. It felt like you grew up with them. Now, man, I have no clue who is on anybody's team.
Now, having said that,
I love the NBA. I watch the NBA draft, and I don't know half the first 10 picks.
having said that, Florida with Clayton and Samuel and the kid from Marshall, the big 7-footer, they got some guys this year. I mean, they're like 8-3, 9-3 heading into conference play. Todd Golden, year 2, clearly a better roster than last year. And tomorrow, I think it's like 12:30, Florida, Kentucky. I'll watch that. I'm excited about it.
What's the line for that?
Oh, gosh. I don't even. And I mean, Kentucky's got to be the favorite, but I'm not even sure. I'll look it up really quick.
Because my son said something to me the other day that was actually surprising, but I just want to make sure his information was right. I thought he said it was either super low or Florida was favored.
Really? It would. I mean, the game is in Gainesville, right?
Yeah.
I'll have to look and see. But Todd,
and Florida's good.
I know. No, I know.
They're
I'm just
good.
saying it's, that's also like almost a thing against Kentucky, as it used to be if Kentucky was favored regardless of who they played. But now it's, it's just a blue blood, basically.
All right, so Florida, Kentucky tomorrow. I'm assuming Kentucky is ranked. All right, Kentucky and Florida. Oh, ESPN does not have a line on that game. They don't have a line on any
Yeah, my
of the
bad.
games.
I should have thought about that earlier.
But Kentucky is number 6 in the country. They're 10-2. Florida comes in at 10-3. They have victories over Pitt, Florida State, East Carolina. I mean, they're a decent team. It'll be really interesting to see what happens tomorrow. But again, if you're going to watch the Gator game, bring a roster with you because it is a vastly different roster if you haven't watched them yet from what it was a year ago. Quickly, Senior Bowl's going on pretty soon. People will be traveling out there. What's your life like? You said draft prep.
Yeah, we
already?
started draft prep this week. We've got 4, may have 5 right now. Cam Ward.
Oh,
yeah.
broke a lot of hearts in South Florida and Tallahassee.
Yeah, Austin Reed, Davis Brin from Georgia Southern, and we may have Jordan try. We're still working on some things with Jordan, Travis, Aaron, Emory Jones as well. So
quickly, 90 seconds. DJ Uiagalelei. I'll call him DJ U.
I don't really know anything about DJ,
but he's going to Florida State.
Right.
I mean, that's a big deal, right?
Yeah, there's a few guys I've never seen throw live in person, and he's one of them. Weirdly enough, it just kind of happened where I missed him in the camp circuit. Arch Manning's another one. I never saw him throw live. So I don't really like talking about guys that I haven't seen live. I mean, he's obviously a good football player. He's played a ton of football, so he's seen a lot. So, I mean, I think that's a significant signing.
Yeah, and Florida State got him. That Mike Norvell in the portal, man. It's what he does. He was the king of the portal. I got to tell you, this year Lane Kiffin's probably the king of the portal.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin's doing things, man.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
He is Denny Thompson. I'm the hacker, Ryan Green. That is Graham Marsh. We'll be back probably next week, another edition of Gator Bytes as we work along in the month of January. Again, keep an eye on Gator basketball tomorrow, a big one against Kentucky in the SEC Conference Opener. Thank you to Southeast Orthopedic Specialists and George Moore Chevrolet for bringing you Gator Bytes, 1010XL.com and the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page.